his bio, Admiral McDonald has a long and distinguished career in the Navy. I'm gonna rely on my notes here because I'm not a military personnel, so I hope I do your bio justice. Okay. His extensive educational background includes a bachelor's in electrical engineering from Norwich, master's in management from Salve Regina, Naval War College, and a National Defense University Joint Force Staff College. His active duty tours include Afghanistan, Scotland, and assignments with the national security agencies. He's had 4 Reserve Command Officer tours, 1st Cyber Command, U.S. 10th Fleet, NIOC Georgia, NIOC Maryland, Fort Devens, Mass, and Naval Security Group Reserve Devens. In a nutshell, okay, Admiral McDonald specializes in cryptologic warfare, okay, cybersecurity, safeguarding our most critical information systems. He works jointly in endeavors with all the arms of military, so that I believe that what this means for me is he's also an accomplished diplomat.
I'll take that.
Yeah, I concur.
Okay. Admiral McDonald was selected as the Deputy Chief Security Service, National Security Agency in 2018, and currently serves in that position today. His professional decorations include numerous professional Navy and joint awards, the Legion of Merit 2 times, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, NATO Medal, and Campaign and Unit Awards. In his civilian duties, he works for a large globally bank where he specializes in cybersecurity and resiliency. So everybody please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Admiral McDonald.
Okay, well, you did awesome with that. As we say in Boston, wicked awesome.
Awesome. He's also
With,
from,
with all those,
I did not say he's a Massachusetts native from Boston, so he's one of our own.
yes.
There you go.
Yeah, the military acronyms, they're awful. So you did a great job. And it is great to be here tonight. And up front, I feel a little bit under pressure because when I was making my way around the room in the back table, they said they actually paid 15 American to be here tonight. So I don't know if I'm worth $15. So I mean, all the pressure is on me. I need to talk to somebody.
Well, the dinner was good.
The food was good. The food, they did a great job. They did a great job with the food. So it really is great to be here tonight and be back in Massachusetts because as Luke was alluded to, I actually do live in Rentham, which is just south of Boston. But as a reserve flag officer, I've been a flag officer since 2013, which is about 6.5 years ago, and I think I've spent about 5.5 years of that on active duty. For some reason, the Navy just keeps pulling us back on, and about a year ago, I got pulled down to Fort Lee, living down there myself. Family is still back in Rentham, but one of the things we in the Navy like to do, our Chief of Naval Operations, right, the 4-star guy that runs the Navy, is he thinks it's very important that we as flag officers get out to those communities where there may not be a huge military presence. So a couple times tonight people allude to, hey, we're kind of a small organization, we're a small group, we're not in a big town. Perfect, right? This is exactly what the CNO wants us doing, getting out and talking with individuals. Some who've had a very austere military career. We've got a lot of veterans here tonight. Some who may never have served, but I think it's important to get out and talk a little bit about the Navy, talk a little bit about what's going on, and then most importantly, take some questions. So A couple of cleanup points or things to start out with. We do have a bunch of veterans. I've done this a few times, getting out into the community, and we've got a lot of veterans here. So where are my veterans? Come on, stand up. Stand up, veterans. Stand up. Round of applause for the veterans. Very important thing to do is a couple of you folks from Vietnam. My father-in-law was in the Air Force in Korea and Vietnam, and very tough time for the military, which I was born then but didn't live through it. And my take on it is, we didn't get that right. And I think we've been trying to make that up over the years, but we can't thank all of you for your service and commitment. And you got kind of a raw deal there. But hopefully over the years we've hopefully made a difference. But thank you to all of you and all of our veterans. It's been a great visit here to Massachusetts, as I alluded to. It's not just doing this. They have a full 2-day schedule for me. I meet with academia, I meet with industry, I meet with government, I meet with the mayor of Springfield tomorrow, yeah, okay, on his calendar. It's been phenomenal. We were at a high school this morning and we met with a Rotary detachment there, and what bright kids, right? And they're from an inner city school. A lot of their parents probably don't have a lot of money, but these kids are eager to make a difference and prove themselves. It really is a shot in the arm for me. I got to tell you, it's really been a great visit. Did the 9/11 ceremony? Obviously, it's 9/11, right? And the one of the things I did right before I came here was I got to swear in. I think it was about a dozen, maybe 14 kids, they're young men and women that are enlisting in the Navy. About 5 or 7 of them are literally getting on a bus tomorrow morning to go off to boot camp. So to be able to do that on 9/11 was pretty special. And the thing that occurred to several of us senior officers is that this year's group is the first set of folks, right, because they're just graduated high school, that were actually born after 9/11 happened. Which is a little crazy for us, because we're all pretty senior here, right? It's like, wow, you got to think about that, right? Because that's ancient history to them. Kind of like Pearl Harbor was for me, and to maybe even to an extent Vietnam, right? Although I was born as Vietnam was happening, but it just caused a pause for me, like how are we going to frame that out for these folks to make sure they understand the significance of that? But also I got a really, another shot in the arm, because it's like, hey, these guys, these people are willing to put on the cloth of our country and serve our nation for a greater good. All right, so that patriotism, that wanting to do that, to service above self is still alive and well here in the country. So I think that's pretty awesome. So very cool. All right. Let's see. What do I want to talk about? I'm going to talk about a couple of things really quickly. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of going on and on. Lieutenant had prepared some slides for me. Awesome job, Lieutenant. I'm not a slide person. I think, and that's not a hit on her at all. I like to talk for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then open up to questions, right? Because this is your time with a Navy Admiral, and you can ask me whatever you want, and hopefully I can answer it. If I can't, I've got my trusty aide here, Sergeant Butler. We'll take down the question, we'll research it, and we'll get back to you. But yeah, that's kind of the way I like to roll. This is not going to be, I'm not going to drone on forever and ever. But I probably want to hit a couple of things. I'll talk about the Navy a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about cyber, because that's my specialty, and then we'll probably wrap it up with questions from all of you, and we can take questions as long as you want to ask them. Except for the reporter right here, she can't ask me anything. Just kidding, she can ask me a question.
She's got all the questions.
She, all softballs, man. Okay. No. So let's just start by talking about the Navy, right? Because I am an admiral. Where the Navy asked me to come out here. I will tell you, our Navy is doing awesome things these days. At a time when it's never been more important to have a Navy. As many of you probably know, right? 70% of the world is covered by water. 80% of the population lives within 50 to 60 miles of that water, and 90% of our commerce goes over water. For you millennials and computer geeks, but people may not realize that 96% of data doesn't go up and over; it goes under the ocean. Okay, so everything. Oh, data up, satellites. Satellites are important. Don't be wrong, right? So the importance of commerce, the importance of freedom of navigation in the seas, the whole thing with the Iranian oil tanker, just drives home the point that we still do need a Navy. And I will tell you, with the Afghanistan war, where I was there on the ground, as well as many of my Navy counterparts, and we were glad to do it, I will tell you, I think we kind of lost the ball a little bit, and I think we all agreed that where the focus was the Middle East. In the meantime, all these other great powers continued to develop, like China and Russia. They kind of came back. And I think there's been a renewed effort within DOD, as it justifiably should be, to refocus the services on their service-specific missions. And to that end, that's what the Navy is doing. And we all know with the current administration that they've indicated a plus-up in ships. I think it's, quote me, 350 ships, which is a big deal. There has been a refocus, at least from the Navy to the Pacific, to some of our bigger adversaries, like China, like Russia. We got to remember, then we got North Korea, Iran, and we still got these, terrorists, right? The terrorists have not gone away. They still need to be dealt with. We are, desperately trying to keep this in a way game, and I think we've done a pretty good job, but that's with a lot of stuff going on in the background. So I guess I would put it out to all of you, although the Navy doesn't seem to be on the forefront of things because of the land-based stuff going on in the Middle East. The Navy is doing a lot of good work kind of behind the scenes in support of the Middle East, but more importantly in defense of commerce and shipping and all that other stuff that goes on. Because as we all know, there is a financial component to all of this. If you want to send the stock market in turmoil, sink a ship in the Panama Canal, right? That would be a catastrophic event. So the Navy is responsible for keeping an eye on all those choke points, while at the same time helping to support different types of functions. One of the things that's very new, not necessarily new to the Navy, but maybe people don't think about with regards to the Navy, is cyber. Cyber is hot, as we all know. It's been hot for about 10 plus years. It's not going away. I wish I could say things are getting better, but I don't. And I'm not saying they're getting worse, but I think it's a serious threat. I think it continues to be a serious threat. Our adversaries are very capable. They're very capable in that area, and I would, frankly say that they don't, they know those laws as well as we do, and try to use that to their advantage. Some of the things that we've been doing in the area of cyber now. So, as was alluded to, I do cyber both in the civilian world and in DOD, which is kind of cool, by the way, because I get to see it from kind of both perspectives. And I got to tell you, on the defensive side of cyber, very similar, right? To protect the network, good cyber hygiene. Hopefully you're all changing the passwords of your routers as you hook them up and not let them stay admin. You're using complex passwords. You're changing your passwords occasionally. Someone asked me, do I do online banking? Yes, I do. I think that's all pretty solid. On the defensive side, very similar within both spaces. Offensive side, obviously I can't get into a lot of that here because of the classification level, but I will tell you, we've got capability there, and as the president and on down has indicated that we're ready to use that if we need to. One of the things that's kind of come up lately is around the elections. Surprise, surprise, the Russians messed around with our 2016 elections. That's very common knowledge, and clearly we were concerned about that within the DOE. And I will tell you, at the NSA, we had a major role to play in supporting the 2018 elections. Because remember, NSA is a foreign intelligence agency, right? So we're foreign intelligence. It is, we don't spy on U.S. citizens. It's illegal. We're not allowed to. We're a country of laws. No one takes that more seriously than the folks at NSA. Trust me. Absolutely. That being said, given the fact that we just said there were foreign entities trying to interfere, we absolutely have to play in that space. And I can tell you that during the 2018 elections, the NSA, in a supporting function to other organizations such as DHS, brought some muscle to bear to ensure that our elections are safe, and we did some great things there. I think it was in the public that we actually deployed some folks overseas to help work some stuff going on. So I guess the point there is we're on top of it. I know there's a lot of angst out there. 2020 is already in the news and in everybody's mindset. It's on our mind at the National Security Agency, as well as all the other agencies. And please know that we're taking the threat seriously. Unfortunately, as we all know, when people, the best things that are invented and go out to the market, people try to weaponize them. And cyber is no different, right? A lot of good things came out of the internet and the Internet of Things and all the other technologies. But there's always going to be those entities that are going to use that and try to weaponize it and use it against us. So our mission, as far as I see it, is to protect all of you, all of us, from those threats. And one of the biggest threats is our election system, because our enemies would like nothing better than to mess with that, and quite frankly pit us against each other, and so we've got to fight really hard to defend that. So I think that's it. I think I've actually went 11 minutes, so I wanted to only go 10. I think I covered some Navy stuff. I covered cyber. I think that's enough talking for me for now, at least broadcasting. I'll take questions from you guys.
On the issue of foreign hackers or whoever's attacking some of the companies that are making them pay a ransom.
Yep.
Isn't there a way that we can kind of backtrack that to them, or find out where this is going, or where it's coming from?
No, it's a really good question, and we deal with this on the civilian side as well as the military side, because we've had intellectual property is the big thing, and it's not only DoD stuff like they want, our latest design for Plane X. It's personal information, it's account information, and I wish I could say there's an easy answer to that, but the way the technology is done, I can use an example. Unclassified business case I won't use the companies because they were hacked, but they hack in, they take the intellectual property, and then it bounces through 8 servers, and then it goes through a country like Ukraine, and let's just say last hit is Ukraine. All right, see how far we can get with the Ukrainian government to enforce, going in and helping us either go, okay, hit your server, where does it go? So it's not as simple as just saying, having a camera, if you will, and seeing you go into the bank and take the money, and we know it's you and we can go after you. The problem with cyber is these guys, they are formidable, and they know how to hide, and they do it extremely well. And then they do it because they know, which countries have better cybersecurity themselves and laws that would do those sort, have laws that would help us get to them. They're gonna go to the weakest one. So it's not, it's not easy. It's a very complex.
But when you're paying somebody ransom, it just seems to me that you should be able to kind of follow where the payment goes, or somehow track those people down.
Cryptocurrency is untraceable.
Yeah, the whole Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is like the internet of the late 90s. It was like the Wild West. Everything went. I think Bitcoin will eventually become. This is just Dan Mac. I guess I shouldn't be saying Dan Maxwell, sorry, because it's just Dan Maxwell that I'm Apple. But I think Bitcoin will eventually, some kind of currency like that will take hold. I just think it's going to be regulated. But if you think about the internet, I mean, you all remember when it came out. I can remember people had social security numbers. We had people's addresses. When I was in boot camp, I came across a letter when I was in AOCS, did the Officer and Gentleman thing, and it had my name, my social security number, Battalion 1, Pensacola. I mean, I was sending my social security number on every email, every letter, and when people wrote me back, that was what I'm like, wow, that's just, it's crazy, but it wasn't a big deal. In 1986, there was no internet, right? You couldn't let people live it. There was no internet, right?
Medicare.
So, so if anybody's got an old letter from AOCS from me, burn it, right?
Please, take out a credit card.
But the cyber thing, going back to your question, I mean, we would love to do it, and the whole ransomware continues to be that tough thing to deal with, right? And there's no easy answer. But I will tell you from a defensive thing, it's the whole, you gotta back up your data. And the good companies know it's not just backing it up. It used to be you could back up your data twice a year. And then they went to a quarter, and then it was monthly, and then it was weekly. Now you gotta be backing up your data like
Daily.
almost all the time, right? Because the minute you get hit, you know you're gonna lose a certain amount.
I will tell you from experience that we were hit with ransomware. All of our engineering drawings, everything was encrypted. We went back to our 3-day backup, 3 days before it happened, and restored everything. And said,
have a nice life.
Have a nice life. We believe in backups.
Yeah. That's how you thwart it. Unfortunately, that's actually the best way to do it. But the problem with that, and I'm not sure how many technical folks we have in, because I work the IT side of the house too, is, I call it a legacy tech. For years, people, the IT, they didn't invest in it. It was the first thing that got cut. I've been in companies where, well, dating myself, it's not now, it was maybe 7 years ago, they were still running Windows 98. I mean, oh my gosh. So in other words, these companies are running these old systems on these old networks, routers, that are 10 years old and haven't been updated with firmware. That's low-hanging fruit. I'm telling you, as a cyber guy, totally hacked, right? So this is where I say that I'm more of a defensive guy than an offensive guy, I think, because what I do in the civilian world. But I'm all like, we got to get rid of that legacy tax. The best thing you can do is stay current on, all of you, right? You should be, hopefully you've got the automatic updates on your laptops, iPads, iPhones, Samsung, whatever, and constantly updating them, because that is the best thing you can do, because these guys are lazy and they go after the low-hanging fruit. And there's plenty of people out there that have 2, 3, 4-year-old software or laptops that have never been updated, and they're just easy prey. Good question, decent question. What else?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you relate to us a story at the NSA that you were involved in, a hero story, something you guys shut down, something that you guys stopped at the, get-go, and give us a great story where you saved us?
No.
I have to kill you.
That might be
Well, I could, but I have to cut your head off.
all of us.
No, I really can't. I mean, I'm thinking of like, what could I do? No. No, but I will, and I'll throw you, I mean, it's not even I will just tell you, so I've been a cryptologist since 1991, but as a reservist, I kind of went in and out of NSA. And I was telling the workforce when I went there last September, as a 2-star admiral running the Central Security Service. So the Central Security Service, you guys probably don't know what it is, but it's the military arm of the NSA. I'm not running it, I'm the deputy. So the NSA, big 3-letter agency, probably one of the biggest. And it's probably 60%, 40% military to civilian. So 40% of our workforce is military from all 5 branches, including the Coast Guard. And you military guys know, that's a lot of people. We're talking tens of thousands of people from 5 different branches, right? And where's my Army guy, Air Force guy, Navy guy? Where's the Navy guy? You guys, we all do everything the same, right? We all have the same procedures. We all have the same processes. We all have all the same. No, we have none of that, right? So when you bring 5 different cultures and entities and ways of doing things, from assignments to awards to all of that, it's all going to be synchronized, and that's what the Central Security Service does. So I'm just a full disclosure, I'm not in operations. So I don't do NSA quote-unquote operations. I am a man trained, equipped, synchronization, operations enabling organization. So my mission for me and my team is to make sure that all those military people, when they come into the National Security Agency, that they've got the right clearances, they're clear, they've got their polygraph, because you have to take a polygraph to go work in the NSA. They've got all the training, so they are a full-up round, so that when, as soon as possible, that they plug in and are effective in certain mission terms. And so anyway, coming back to your story, I went back there last August and re-immersed myself, because it's been several years since I've been there full time. And I will tell you, I mean, they just do high water stuff. I mean, I can't talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it, but rest assured, I mean, there are a lot of people that have a vested interest in making sure that we are protecting the interests of this country and all of you every single day. And we'll never know about it. It's kind of like terrorist attacks. There's been several terrorist attacks that have been thwarted that will never be talked about or known about, and nor should they, because our goal is, one, to protect our country, and so that everybody can get about the business of doing their daily business. So that's the best I can do.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
But I can't give you a specific one, unless you want me to go to prison.
No, we don't want that.
That would really bum my wife out, and I wouldn't be earning any money.
You'd have to learn Morse code.
That would suck.
We would much rather be well protected.
That's all right. Anyway, but good ask. You had to ask. All right. What else? Any other questions?
Well, just your general thoughts as we build up China's naval force.
China, yeah. China's got a grand strategy, and from a Navy perspective, they have really emerged as like, hey, we're just trying to protect our coastline, to projecting outward, right? As we've noticed, they started building little air bases on the islands out there in the Southern Pacific.
And islands.
Huh?
And a whole island.
And a whole island.
building a whole island.
Yeah, right. They're making aircraft carriers, right? So, Yeah, I was submarine force. So the point is, you know, the China of today is not the China of 25 years ago.
Right.
They're spending a lot of money on their Navy for you know, to make sure that they are a presence in the Pacific. And when you combine that with what they're doing in cyberspace, yeah, I would call them a formidable competitor. And they've got to be taken seriously.
And outer space now, it seems.
And in space, right? So
Yeah.
everybody's heard we're standing up Space Command, and I know everybody kind of chuckles at that. But those of us that have been around a while, there was a Space Command in the 80s and in the 90s, and with cutbacks and everything, it was disestablished. It was down at Dahlgren, Virginia. Navy had a bigger space presence than it had today, and I think we're going to have to reconstitute some of that because. You know, I said a lot of the stuff goes under the ocean, and that's true. But there's a lot of satellites up there that not only militarily, but just our ways. Does anybody look at a map anymore? Right? I was joking with my kids. I said one of my best birthday presents or Christmas presents, I was born on 20th of December, was a Rand McNally map. Because I love maps, and I was always driving from here to there and break out my map. I mean, we don't do that anymore, right? You punch it into Waze. Well, Waze is all satellite stuff, right? And oh, by the way, if someone hacked into that and threw stuff off by a couple of milliseconds, right, which is a couple of 100,000ths of a second, literally, you know, planes can drop out of the sky, right? Can throw off your air traffic control system. Think about that. Wouldn't that suck? Right? You're getting ready to land in Florida, and all of a sudden, you know. So I mean, people say, well, so I worry about that. I worry about the power grid. I mean, I worry about all that. We worry about all that stuff. But you know, I mean, having said all of that, you have to ask why, right? So you know, I'm not a sky is falling type of guy. I think I always plan for the worst, hope for the best, but. You know, I'd say, okay, yeah, they could shut down the power grid in February in Massachusetts. Right, and I'd be like, okay, but why? I mean, why would you do that, right? Because we would be eventually, you know, I would like to think that there's some rational people in these companies and these countries that have formal cyber capabilities that are, you know, at the big kid table. I would hope, but you know. That being said, trust me, we plan for the worst and hope for the best.
Do you think Kim Jong-un can be trusted?
Nice try. Above my, I'm not going to comment on it. I can't comment on that. I don't know. I do believe in dialogue. But where that's going to go, I can't really. No comment. Yeah. We're not going to the political.
I get it.
Yep.
Do you have an inner feeling about North Korea and being so close to South Korea with their big military, which they have also on the ground as well as the Navy, right?
I'm not sure, do I have a concern? I've got a big concern about North Korea. I think everybody does.
Are they involved in cyber also?
Oh yeah. North Korea's got a cyber capability. It was Sony, right? Didn't they have some involvement with Sony, if I remember correctly? So yeah, I mean they do dastardly stuff too,
We have
right?
25,000 troops over there on the ground.
Yeah, we do. And people are concerned about that, and we all know it went hot there for a while, right? Iran is hot, or hopefully it started to cool down. I will tell you folks, I think this is kind of the new norm. I think there's just a new kind of intensity out there. And I think it's exacerbated by the quick communication and the social media. You know, what used to take weeks to transmit and talk about, put out, now happens instantaneously, and things, and when you do that, things can be misinterpreted, you know, all of that stuff. And I think that in itself has kind of raised the I don't want to say the temperature, but the octane. I mean, we don't have the time to respond like we used to. You know, you go back to World War II or whatever. I mean, commanders had, you know, it wasn't the communication. You know? And I'm not complaining about it. I mean, I think that's why I said I think it's the new norm. That it's just hopefully, and I do believe this. I mean, I think our policymakers and the folks down in DC, I mean, I think they take all of this stuff extremely seriously. I have not been in any meetings where you know, General Nakasone, the head of the director of the National Security Agency, has gone down and briefed those guys. But I know he does. I know that, you know, I take it on word that they're, you know, concerned. So put all the, you know, what you hear in the news on either side. I would like to think that when all that goes away and these people are sitting in their chairs, I think everybody, like all of us, we take our jobs extremely seriously. And I think these people sitting on you know, I take it on faith that these people sitting on these committees are trying to do the right thing. And what we, I guess, bringing it back to us, the intelligence agencies, I think what we owe them is to try to give them the most reliable, up-to-date, honest, independent intelligence that we can, which is what we've always done. Always, you know, we are the most apolitical organization. I can say that unequivocally. At least I have not been stationed at the other agencies, but at NSA, it's totally apolitical. Our mission is to supply X, Y, or Z, and that's what we did. So, and we're going to continue because that's our mission. And then that's up to what happens to all that afterwards. You know, that's not really our way.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
When you look at North Korea and China and Russia, my question for you is, are we fighting them back and keeping our heads above water and all the cybersecurity issues? Or are we in a powerful position, or are we just surviving? In your overall estimation, how good are we doing in this environment?
Well, I want to be careful there, but we're doing fine. But I think, you know, it's kind of, I look at it on a maturity level, right? Cyber is relatively new. It's constantly changing. The technology is constantly changing. The rules of engagement are constantly changing. Cyber law is trying to play catch up. So in a lot of sort of ways, it's still a very, I guess I'd call it an immature space. So it's not like aircraft or all the stuff that's been around for years, and we know what the rules of engagement are, what you can do and what you can't. I still think it's very squishy and very gray. And because of that, you know, it makes it tough. So here's the deal, right? It's 9/11, right? You put two planes in the side of a building, that's an act of war, right? That's easy. Okay, you take down an American company like Sony, it's an American corporation. Is that an act of war? Is that worth spilling 10,000 of our kids? 5,000? 100? 1? I don't know. Right? This is what we're kind of struggling with. You know what? When you fire, and that's the trouble, right? When you fire a cyber bullet, you know, when you fire a bullet, it goes to you, or you know, it goes from here to here, and whatever's in between. Well, you fire a cyber bullet, you know, and it bounces off servers in 20 different countries who all have different laws. You know, it goes to a couple of corporations, which they're separate entities. You know, and maybe so it's just a. I guess the point I'm making is it's just a very complex problem, and you know, I think all of us are still trying to figure it out. With that being said, you know, I think we're bringing the right resources to bear. I think our people continue to be our greatest asset. I will tell you, the people that we've got working in cyber, I would say both in the civilian world and in the DoD, they're just they're awesome. They do great stuff, right? And it's the younger generation, the millennials. They're doing awesome stuff. As working cyber in the civilian world, I would put my team at State Street. That's who I work for, State Street Bank. You know, up against, you know, the best. They just do awesome stuff. The problem is it's still very squishy, you know, and clearly what's tough in cyber is, you know, unless you're a government, you don't want to get in the offensive side of things. Right? I don't want a company trying to punch China in the nose, right? Because they'll get squished like a little bug. So I don't know. Those just some kind of random thoughts on it.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to say thank you for your time. Also, it's comforting to know that, you know, you are a highly tuned, trained weapon, and your tools are obviously worldwide. You do, just like our local responders here. You know, it's comforting to know that, you know, we're diligent in what we do. Give us Americans. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. No, and it's a team effort. Yeah, I didn't even talk about the first responders here,
Oh,
right?
you're
And the memorials, there's 2 first responders. I'm not saying we forget about them, but we kind of do. I mean, everything's about the military, but and then there was that legislation where they weren't funding that, and I think that got passed, which is absolutely the right thing to do. I mean, we can't, you know, tough time to be a cop, right? I mean, take all cyber and 9/11 out of the thing. It is a tough time to be a police officer in this country.
Everything's instant.
And you know, we don't know where that's going. So, I mean,
That's your job, though. That's your job.
I don't know, but then again, it's just different ways. When I was a kid, I listened to adults, right? When you tell a police officer, you trust the police officer.